The diner on the edge of Clearwater was the kind of place where stories never changed. The same old coffee, the same tired faces, the same silence that carried 1,000 unspoken things. But everything shifted the day Ryder Cole walked in. Ryder was a man the town feared. The leader of the Iron Vultures, a biker gang everyone whispered about but no one dared confront. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with cold blue eyes that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 regrets. People said he'd been in fights that could break bones and hearts alike. They said he was dangerous. But no one really knew him. That day, he stepped into the diner after a long ride, craving nothing more than quiet and a cup of coffee. When he sat down, a young waitress approached his table. Her name tag read Ella. She smiled, a small, tired smile, and asked him what he'd like to order. He asked for coffee, black. As she poured, he noticed the faint tremor in her hands. When she reached across the table, her sleeve slid up slightly, revealing a dark bruise on her wrist. She noticed him looking and quickly pulled her sleeve down. He didn't say anything. He'd seen marks like that before, too many times. He knew what they meant, but he also knew what silence looked like. The kind of silence that comes from fear. Over the next few weeks, Ryder started coming back to the diner regularly. Always sitting at the same booth. Always asking for the same thing. At first, people assumed he was there to intimidate someone. But the truth was, he couldn't get that image out of his mind, the bruise, the trembling hands, the forced smile. He watched her carefully, not out of curiosity, but out of quiet concern. He noticed how she flinched every time the doorbell rang. He noticed how her laughter disappeared the moment a certain man walked in, a tall, rough-looking man with a cruel smirk who always sat near the counter. The man spoke to her like she was something he owned, not someone he cared for. Ryder didn't need to ask who he was. He'd seen men like that all his life, the ones who took their power from breaking others. The ones who smiled when someone cried. One evening, after closing, Ryder happened to be riding past the diner when he saw Ella leaving through the back door. She looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder again and again. Moments later, the same man from the diner stepped out behind her. He grabbed her by the arm and pulled her close. Even from a distance, Ryder could see the fear on her face. Without thinking, he stopped his bike and walked toward them. When the man raised his hand to strike her, Ryder caught his wrist mid-air. The man tried to pull away, but Ryder's grip was unyielding. "Don't," Ryder said, his voice quiet but sharp as steel. The man sneered. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Ryder's eyes turned cold. "Neither do you." He let go of the man's wrist only long enough to push him back. Ella tried to stop him, pleading softly, "Please, don't make it worse." But Ryder wasn't there to fight, he was there to warn. He leaned close enough for the man to see the truth in his eyes and said, "If I ever see you touch her again, you'll regret it." The man spat a few curses and stumbled off into the dark. Ella stood frozen, shaking, her voice barely a whisper. "You shouldn't have done that, he'll come after you." Ryder looked at her with quiet calm. "He won't. Not while I'm around." Tears filled her eyes. "You don't understand. He's my stepfather. The sheriff's brother. No one believes me. He tells everyone I make things up. If I leave, I'll lose everything." Ryder said nothing for a long moment. Then, in a softer tone than she thought possible, he said, "Then you won't face him alone anymore." From that night on, things began to change. Ryder started showing up more often, not just at the diner, but around town. He wasn't loud or confrontational, he was simply present. His gang, once feared for their recklessness, began following his lead. They sat quietly in the diner, ate their meals, tipped well, and made it clear without words that Ella was not to be messed with. People started talking, of course. Small towns always do. They said the biker gang leader had fallen for the broken waitress. They said he was protecting her for his own reasons. But Ella didn't care. For the first time in years, she felt safe. The man who had haunted her steps stopped coming to the diner. The bruises on her skin slowly faded, though the ones in her heart took longer. But safety is fragile when built on secrets. One morning, the sheriff came into the diner, his voice booming. "I heard there's been trouble around here. People say you've been spending too much time with the wrong crowd, Ella." She tried to stay calm. "I'm just doing my job." He leaned close, lowering his voice. "My brother says you've been spreading lies about him. I suggest you stop before you make things worse for yourself." Before she could answer, Ryder walked in. His presence filled the room instantly. "Let her go," he said quietly. The sheriff turned, annoyed. "This doesn't concern you." Ryder stepped closer. "It does now." The tension was thick enough to choke on. Everyone in the diner froze. The sheriff finally released her arm but glared at Ryder. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a thug with a bike." Ryder didn't flinch. "Maybe. But at least I know when someone needs help." That day, Ella realized that Ryder wasn't the monster people painted him to be. He had scars, but not all of them were visible. Later, when she asked him why he cared, his answer broke her heart. "When I was 17, he said, I watched my mother get beaten every day. Everyone knew. No one helped. One night, she didn't wake up. I swore that if I ever saw it happen again, I'd do something. Anything." From then on, their connection grew deeper, built not on romance, but on something far stronger, understanding. Two broken souls who recognized the same pain in each other. But darkness never lets go easily. A few weeks later, Ryder's garage was set on fire. His bikes, his tools, everything burned. The fire department said it was arson. He didn't need to ask who did it. The message was clear: back off, or suffer. He didn't back off. Instead, he gathered his men and quietly started collecting evidence, photos, threats, witnesses. Ella hesitated, terrified of what would happen if they got caught, but Ryder assured her, "We're not fighting him with fists this time. We'll fight with truth." For days, they worked in silence. Ryder found people the man had hurt before, women who had left town, afraid to speak up. Slowly, piece by piece, he built a case. When he finally had everything he needed, he sent it all, anonymously, to the state police. A week later, the town woke up to a headline that no one saw coming. Sheriff's brother arrested for assault and extortion. The news spread like wildfire. People were stunned. No one had ever stood up to that family before. No one had dared. Ella cried when she heard. Not out of fear, out of relief. She ran to the small garage where Ryder had begun rebuilding what he lost. She didn't need to say anything. She just hugged him. He smiled faintly and said, "You did this. You found the courage." She shook her head. "No. You gave me the strength to." From that day on, everything changed. The town that once looked at Ryder with fear began to see him differently. They realized the truth, that sometimes the people they called dangerous were the ones who stood up when no one else would. Ella kept her job at the diner. Her bruises faded completely, her laughter came back, and her eyes no longer carried the weight of fear. Ryder still visited every evening, sitting in the same booth, drinking his coffee in silence. One evening, she asked him, "Do you ever think about leaving this town?" He shrugged. "I used to. I thought I didn't belong anywhere. But now, maybe this place isn't so bad." She smiled. "Maybe it's better because of you." He looked down, a rare softness crossing his face. "No. It's better because you stopped hiding." The people of Clearwater never forgot what happened. They stopped whispering about the biker gang. They stopped pretending not to see pain. And when they spoke of Ryder Cole, they no longer called him the gang leader. They called him the man who stood up when everyone else stayed quiet. As for Ella, she found peace, not because someone saved her, but because someone finally believed her. They never became a couple, though some hoped they would. Their bond was something different, something sacred. Two souls who carried scars from the same kind of darkness, and helped each other find the light again. Years later, when people told the story of Clearwater's darkest secret and the biker who changed everything, they always ended it the same way. Sometimes, angels don't wear white. Sometimes, they wear leather and ride motorcycles.